Possibility means you have a chance.
Passion opens the door to all possibilities.
When I feel like anything's possible, I feel kind of giddy.
I want to be an astronaut, an artist, an actress.
To visit another country.
All I need is a backpack and a pair of shoes, and I'll find a way.
That I'm able to do anything I set my mind to.
I've never felt like more things are possible than right now.
In the right shoes, anything's possible.
DSW, countless shoes at brag-worthy prices. Imagine the possibilities.
On the night of February 20th, 1954, the President of the United States vanished during his Palm Springs vacation. Dwight D. Eisenhower wasn't in his hotel room. He wasn't on the golf course. The Secret Service searched everywhere. He was just gone. The Associated Press reported President Eisenhower died tonight of a heart attack in Palm Springs. An emergency press conference was called. The president was alive and well. He'd chipped a tooth and was rushed to a local dentist. The story seemed believable enough, but reporters started asking questions. They couldn't find the dentist or his office, and no record of the visit. That's because the story was a lie. Eisenhower wasn't at the dentist. He was at Edwards Air Force Base for the most classified meeting in American history. The president had vanished for an entire evening. The Associated Press panicked and reported his death before retracting it a few minutes later. The White House said he'd chipped a tooth and needed emergency dental work. But Eisenhower wasn't at the dentist. He was at Edwards Air Force Base for a secret meeting. The base was on complete lockdown. Armed soldiers patrolled the perimeter with no name tape on their uniforms, no rank, no insignia. Anonymous guards protecting the most classified meeting in history. Inside a secure hangar, Eisenhower waited with a small group, high-ranking generals, top scientists. This group would later get a code name, Majestic 12. Just after midnight, two lights appeared in the sky. As they got closer, you could see their shapes. These weren't planes. They weren't helicopters. They were circular, made of a metal that looked like polished silver, perfectly smooth, no seams, no rivets, no doors or windows. They hovered for a moment and then settled onto the tarmac without making a sound. Then the doors opened. White light spilled out. The air around the craft shimmered with waves that looked like heat distortion, but the temperature actually dropped. Everyone in the hangar felt it. Ramps extended from the vessels. The men watching were nervous, though they tried to hide it. Still, they could hear their own heartbeats. They were breathing fast. Then they saw movement in the light. Beings emerged. They looked almost human, but weren't. Tall and thin with pale skin and long blonde hair. They wore simple one-piece silver suits. The military gave them a name, the Nordics. The Nordics didn't speak, but everyone could hear them, not through their ears, through their minds. Telepathic communication felt overwhelming at first. The human mind isn't used to it. It took a few seconds for the men to adjust, but they did. The Nordics came to make an offer. They would provide technology beyond human imagination, unlimited clean energy, the end of disease. The human lifespan would exceed 300 years. They would guide humanity into a golden age without poverty, war, or suffering. But they wanted something in exchange. To the Nordics, it was a small price for turning Earth into a paradise. All they wanted was all nuclear weapons dismantled. The Nordics said humanity was like a child playing with a loaded gun. Nuclear weapons would destroy us. It was just a matter of time. But the Nordics had another message, a warning. They said another alien race was already here, a species that fed on developing worlds like parasites. The Nordics urged Eisenhower to stay away from them. This other race would also offer technology, advanced propulsion, anti-gravity, unlimited energy. But they would offer something the Nordics wouldn't, weapons. The other aliens would allow America to keep its nuclear arsenal, and all the advanced technologies would be presented as gifts. Eisenhower didn't know that the price for these gifts would be much higher than disarming. He also didn't know the gifts were a trap. Craving a thrill that doesn't require a plane ticket or a passport? Audible has your next adventure ready whenever you are. Whether you're into spine-tingling horror, sweeping fantasy romance, or high-stakes suspense, Audible brings it all straight to your ears. 1 minute you're tangled in the dark romance of Onyx Storm, the next you're gripping the edge of your seat with Never Flinch by Stephen King. And if you haven't checked out Mad Love, an Audible original, it's like a psychological roller coaster you don't want to end. And when you become an Audible member, like me, you get 1 title a month to keep. Bestsellers, new releases, plus unlimited access to a huge library of audiobooks, podcasts, and exclusive Audible originals, all in the easy-to-use Audible app that lets you listen anytime, anywhere. Whether I'm investigating historical mysteries or diving into conspiracy theories, having instant access to thousands of titles makes my work so much easier. Audible has become an essential part of my daily routine. Start listening and discover what's beyond the edge of your seat. New members can try Audible now free for 30 days and dive into a world of new thrills. Visit audible.com/Wi-Files or text Wi-Files to 500-500. That's audible.com/Wi-Files or text Wi-Files to 500-500. Two months later, a letter surfaced that proved the meeting wasn't entirely secret. Gerald Light, a writer and researcher, wrote about what he saw at Edwards Air Force Base. Extreme security measures were in place.
We were finally allowed to enter the restricted section after about 6 hours, in which we were checked on every possible item, event, incident, and aspect of our personal and public life.
When they were finally allowed inside, what they saw was beyond anything they could have imagined.
During my 2 days visit, I saw 5 separate and distinct types of aircraft being studied and handled by our Air Force officials, with the assistance and permission of the Etherians.
The Etherians were apparently one of many alien races working alongside the U.S. military, but not everyone was taking this revelation well.
I have never seen so many human beings in a state of complete collapse and confusion, as they realized that their own world had ended with such finality. The reality of the other plane aeroforms is now removed from the realms of speculation and made a rather painful part of the consciousness of every responsible scientific and political group.
As far as Light was concerned, the speculation about UFOs and aliens was over. Witnesses were invited, the crafts were here, the issue was settled.
I have no words to express my reactions. It has finally happened. It is now a matter of history. President Eisenhower will go directly to the people via radio and television. From what I could gather, an official statement to the country is being prepared for delivery about the middle of May.
The announcement never came. The public was told nothing. Light wasn't the only civilian there. The delegation included people with serious credentials. Dr. Edwin Norris had been Truman's chief economic advisor. Franklin Allen worked for the Hearst newspaper empire. Cardinal McIntyre represented the Catholic Church. These weren't UFO enthusiasts or conspiracy theorists. They were establishment figures, people with reputations to protect and everything to lose by going public. Within days of Light's letter, all the civilian witnesses received visits from men in dark suits. The story was buried. Some bodies were buried. Those still alive never spoke publicly again. The second alien race arrived just as the Nordics predicted. Their craft was different. Not silver or shimmering, dull gray metal that absorbed light like a stealth aircraft. Where the Nordic vessels looked peaceful, this new craft was menacing. It looked powerful. The witnesses understood immediately. This ship was built for war. No ramp extended, no beings emerged, but like the Nordics, the men could hear voices in their minds. Where the Nordics were warm and engaging, these new voices were cold and clinical. This wasn't a visit, this was a transaction. A voice invited Eisenhower and his team aboard. The men glanced at each other. The voice repeated the invitation. This time it sounded more like a command. Inside, the first thing they noticed was the disorienting silence. Sounds were absorbed like in a vacuum, and there was a pulsating hum. You couldn't hear it, but you can feel it reverberating throughout your body. The air was thin and cold. There was the smell of ozone and copper. There was also a faint smell of something organic, algae maybe, or moss. Like the exterior, the interior was seamless. No bolts or rivets, no panel seams. The floors, walls, and ceiling were made of the same silvery gray material. The room was well lit, but it felt wrong. There were no visible bulbs or fixtures. The light was just there. Occasionally, the walls rippled and shifted as if responding to something. This didn't feel like a machine, it felt alive. A voice directed them to a central chamber where they waited in uncomfortable silence. Then they appeared. Small beings, about 4 feet tall with gray skin, huge bald heads and enormous black eyes, thin limbs, long fingers, no visible mouths. They moved mechanically, robotically. The beings didn't have a name then, but we now know them as the Greys. They'd been watching Earth for a long time. They knew about the Cold War, the nuclear arms race, how close humanity was to destroying itself. They knew about the Nordics' offer. They agreed with the Nordics on one thing: humans were headed for extinction. Like the Nordics, the Greys also had an offer. The Nordics offered a path to world peace, the end of war, starvation, poverty, free energy for all, a great leap forward for all humanity. The Greys had a different approach. They wouldn't save all of humanity, only a select few. Greys had technology that would put America a century ahead of any other nation. Particle beam weapons, zero-point energy, advanced metallurgy, stealth technology, anti-gravity propulsion. America wouldn't just win the Cold War, it would dominate Earth for generations. And all they wanted in exchange was access, permission to operate on Earth in secret, underground bases, hidden facilities, and they wanted access to the human population for biological study, just a few people. The abductions would be harmless. People would be taken aboard a ship while they were asleep. The experiments would be painless. When the subjects were returned, they'd have no memory of the abduction. And for transparency, the United States government would be provided with a full list of every abductee. All eyes were on the president, the generals, the scientists, the cardinal, and the Greys, waiting. Eisenhower had to choose the Nordics' path to peace or the Greys' promise of power. The two alien races had made their offers. The Nordics promised peace through disarming. The Greys promised power through technology. For Eisenhower, the choice was clear. He chose power. The Cold War was escalating. Soviet nukes were pointed at American cities. The Nordics' offer sounded idealistic and naive. The Greys' deal promised survival. It was practical. The decision was made in that gray chamber. No ceremony, no handshakes, no documents to sign. The agreement was sealed telepathically, mind to mind. The terms were simple. The United States would get advanced technology and weapons that could end any war. The Greys would provide blueprints, materials, knowledge, and even assist human engineers. In return, the Greys could operate on Earth in secret. They were given federal land to build their own bases, deep underground, hidden from the public, hidden from Congress, hidden from future presidents, hidden from everyone except Majestic 12. The work began immediately. The Greys brought massive tunneling machines that could melt solid rock into glass. They moved silently beneath the New Mexico desert, Nevada, and Colorado. They left no trace on the surface. The tunnels went thousands of feet underground, level after level carved into the rock. Each level had a specific purpose. The upper levels were for human personnel. The middle levels were for joint operations. The lower levels were restricted, grays only. In the mountains near Dulce, New Mexico, construction began on what would become the most classified facility on Earth. 7 levels deep, each level more restricted than the last. Level 7 was so classified that even the construction workers didn't know what they were building. The abductions also started immediately. People vanished from their cars on deserted highways, from their beds in the middle of the night. The list of names began to arrive to Majestic 12. But the numbers didn't add up. Reports suggested that for every name on the list, 10 more people went missing. And the few abductees who remembered the experience didn't describe harmless exams. They described terrifying, painful procedures. The Greys had lied, but Majestic 12 had no way to stop them without revealing the entire program. But there were witnesses who had no interest in money or power, and they decided to expose the truth. The Greada Treaty promised America technological supremacy in exchange for allowing alien research on human subjects. The deal was simple: limited abductions, harmless experiments, full disclosure, regular reports. But by the late 1970s, it was clear the Greys weren't keeping their end of the bargain. Now, sure, they were sharing technology. Within a decade of the treaty, computers shrank from room-sized monsters to desktop machines. Fiber optics appeared out of nowhere. Stealth aircraft could vanish from radar. Materials that returned to their original shape after being crumpled, just like witnesses described from Roswell. The transistor, microchips, anti-gravity research, night vision, all of it accelerating at an impossible pace. But the most disturbing part wasn't what we gained, it was what we lost. Because while American technology leaped forward, American citizens were disappearing. Phil Schneider wasn't a conspiracy theorist. He was a geologist and structural engineer with security clearance. Phil Schneider built secret underground bases for the government. He knew where the bodies were buried because he helped bury them. In 1979, Schneider was at Dulce, New Mexico, helping drill thousands of feet below the surface. His team knew they were building a joint human-alien facility. They were told the Greys were peaceful partners. That was a lie. During the drilling, they broke through into something that wasn't on the blueprints, a massive cavern, already occupied. It was a Grey nesting area, filled with thousands of beings in incubation tanks, and there were human parts floating in those tanks. Schneider saw men, women, and children, mostly in pieces. The Greys weren't studying humanity, they were harvesting it. A firefight erupted, guns against alien energy weapons, not exactly a fair fight. Schneider, armed with a pistol, killed 2 of the aliens. Then he was hit by a blast that burned off the fingers on his left hand and tore a hole in his chest. A Green Beret pushed Schneider back onto the elevator shaft, hit the button to send him to the surface, then stayed behind. In the battle, 66 humans died, only 3 survived. Phil Schneider was one of them. William Cooper was former naval intelligence. He saw the documents. He saw the treaty. Cooper knew about Project Sigma, how astronomers in 1953 discovered large objects in space moving toward Earth, objects that could only be spaceships. Cooper knew about the underground bases, the technology exchange, the cover-up, but he also knew something Schneider didn't. The treaty wasn't just about secret facilities. In February 1955, about 300 people witnessed something at Holloman Air Force Base. Air Force One landed and taxied onto the end of the runway. The pilot instructed the tower to turn off all radar. Then 3 round objects appeared in the sky. One landed 200 feet from the president's plane. Another hovered overhead like a sentinel. The third vanished from sight. Witnesses watched a man descend from Air Force One. No hat, clearly visible. Everyone recognized him as President Eisenhower. They watched him shake hands with beings at the door of the craft. Then he entered their ship. This wasn't secret. This was witnessed by hundreds, and still nobody talked. But Phil Schneider and William Cooper did. Both men made public statements that their lives were in danger. Both said they were being threatened. Both predicted they would soon be found dead. Both men were right. A secret treaty with aliens, underground bases, a war for the future of humanity, 2 whistleblowers dead for trying to expose the truth. The Greada Treaty is one of the most elaborate conspiracy theories of the last century. But is it true? The official story of Eisenhower's disappearance on February 20th, 1954, is still a dental visit. The White House released the dentist's name, Dr. Francis A. Purcell. Records show he was a real dentist in Palm Springs. But the story has problems. The Eisenhower Library has extensive records of the president's health, every appointment, every procedure, but there's no record of any dental work in February 1954. None. The primary sources for the Greada Treaty are whistleblowers, William Cooper and Phil Schneider. Cooper was former naval intelligence with access to classified files. He made some bold public predictions. On June 28, 2001, on his radio show, Cooper said there would be a major terrorist attack on U.S. soil. He said this would be a false flag operation and Osama bin Laden would be blamed. Now, at this time, very few people ever heard the name Osama bin Laden. But 6 weeks later, on September 11th, the United States was attacked. After the attacks, Cooper said on the air that he expected to be killed. Not arrested, killed. A few weeks later, he was killed in a shootout with police. They were trying to serve him with a warrant for tax evasion. Phil Schneider showed photos and material samples he claimed were alien alloys.
I have different artifacts explaining some of them are alien metals that have been produced. Here's a crystalline example. It's in the scalenohedral crystalline form. We got this from the large grays technology.
He also believed his life was in danger. In 1995, during a lecture, he said, "If I ever commit suicide, I didn't. I was murdered." A few months later, Schneider was found dead in his apartment, strangled with a surgical tube. Official cause of death? Suicide. There's a link below to the full story of Phil Schneider and Dulce Base. It's a wild one. Now, despite these very strange deaths, there's no physical proof of the Greada Treaty. But the story doesn't come from nowhere. The 1950s saw a massive worldwide wave of UFO sightings. Many were witnessed by credible military personnel. And after World War II, technology advanced quickly, maybe too quickly. Computers, particle physics, wireless communication, integrated circuits, fiber optics, stealth technology, anti-gravity research. I have an episode coming up about the acceleration in technology that began in 1947, the year of the Roswell crash. The discoveries were coming fast and they were a little too convenient. Gerald Light really wrote a letter in 1954 claiming he witnessed the alien meeting. He described seeing multiple alien craft and different species. He named other witnesses, Cardinal McIntyre, Franklin Allen, Dr. Edwin Nurse. Now, Dr. Nurse is interesting. He was an advisor to President Truman at the time, but before that, he was a key figure from the Brookings Institution. Just a few years after the Greada meeting, the Brookings Institution released the Brookings Report. The report covers a broad range of topics related to space exploration and its potential effects on society. But one section, only a few paragraphs long, has become infamous. The report says that discovering intelligent extraterrestrial life could cause major social upheaval. Now, you might have heard this is a classified report that claims aliens exist and instructed NASA to suppress this information. None of that is true. But the report did raise a question that if aliens were discovered, the implications of disclosure should be considered carefully. And then there's Eisenhower. In his farewell address to the nation in 1961, his final warning wasn't about the Soviets. It was about a threat from within. He warned of the growing, unchecked power of a military-industrial complex, a shadow government of unelected officials and defense contractors. Eisenhower was 100% right about that.
We recognize the imperative need for this development. Yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
So is this a president's parting wisdom, or was it a confession, or a final desperate warning about the deal he made and regretted? Now, I don't know if the story of the Greada Treaty is true, but the story's observation of human nature is absolutely true. We were offered two paths, one of enlightenment and one of power. We chose power. And if given the same offer today, we'd make the same choice. Now, I wish the human race was ready for an awakening that would end violence and war and starvation and poverty and all of that. And I believe one day we'll get there. But that day is not today. The world is a dangerous place and always has been. The Nordics offered peace only after we disarmed. That's a big risk to take when the Soviets were armed to the teeth. And what if the Nordics were lying? They were a bigger threat than the Soviets. So how do we know we can trust them? Think of it this way. You're in a room with a stranger. You both have guns pointed at each other. The stranger says, "I promise I won't shoot, but you have to give me your gun first." Now, you want to believe him, but you don't know him. So now the choice is yours. Trust the stranger and risk your own survival, or squeeze and guarantee it. Be honest. Which would you choose? Thanks for listening or watching the Y-Files Stripped, where I try to get right to the point, right to the story, then right to the truth. But if you want me to expand this into a longer episode with the fish, let me know. And like most topics we cover in the Y-Files, today's was recommended by you. So if there's a story you'd like to see or learn more about, go to theyfiles.com/tips. And if you're watching on YouTube or another video platform, remember the Y-Files is also a podcast. In fact, stripped episodes are designed to be podcasts where we try to use as much sound and music as we can to immerse you in the story. But if you're listening on a podcast platform, keep in mind there is a video version that contains some images we talked about and other fun visuals. You're not missing any of the story, but the video is there if you'd like to see more. Now, if you need more Y-Files in your life, check out our Discord. There are thousands of people on there 24/7, and they're into the same weird stuff we are. It's a great community, really supportive, a lot of fun, and it's free to join. Special thanks to our patrons who make the Y-Files possible. Every episode, every podcast, every live stream, everything I do is dedicated to our Patreon members. I could not do this without your support. Now, if you'd like to support the channel and join our incredible community, consider becoming a member on Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you get access to perks like videos and podcasts early with no commercials, access to merch only available to members, plus you get 2 private live streams every week just for you. The whole Y-Files team is on the stream. You can turn your camera on, jump up on stage, ask a question, talk about anything you like. I think it's the best perk there is. Another great way to support the channel is grab something from the Y-Files store. And I do everything I can to keep the prices as low as possible. There's no $30 t-shirts on there, no nonsense like that. Plus, if you become a member on YouTube for $3, you get 10% off everything on the Y-Files store forever. You get a new code every month. So if you're going to spend $40 on t-shirts, join, become a member, it pays for itself. And if you want to cancel after 1 month just to get the coupon code, that's totally fine. The YouTube membership is meant to save you money, not make me money. In fact, every dollar from YouTube memberships goes to my great team. Those are the plugs. I hope you had fun, and I hope you know that me and everyone at the Y-Files is working really hard for you. So until next time, be safe, be kind, and know that you are appreciated.
In Area 51, a secret code inside the Bible said I would. I love my UFOs and paranormal fun, as well as music, so I'm singing it like I should. then another conspiracy theory becomes the truth, my friends. And it never ends. No, it never ends. I feel the crap cat and got stuck inside Mel's hole with MK Ultra. I'm being only too aware. Did Stanley Kubrick fake the moon landing alone on a film set? Or were the shadow people there? The Roswell aliens just fought the smiling man, I'm told, and his name was Cold. And I can't believe I'm dancing with the fish. Heckle fish on Thursday nights with AJ2, and Wi-Fi's helping me all through the night. All I ever wanted was to just hear the truth, so the Wi-Fi's on repeat all through the night. The Mothman sightings and the solar storm still come to Agatha, the secret city underground. Mysterious number stations, planet Serpo 2, Project Stargate, and what the Dark Watchers found. We're in a simulation, don't you worry though. The Black Knight satellite, it told me so. I can't believe I'm dancing with the fish. Heckle fish on Thursday nights with AJ2, and the Wi-Fi's on repeat all through the night. All I ever wanted was to just hear the truth, so the Wi-Fi's on repeat all through the night. Heckle fish on Thursday nights with AJ2, and the Wi-Fi's on repeat all through the night. So the Wi-Fi's on repeat all through the Gertie loves to dance. Yeah, Gertie loves to dance on the dance floor because she is a camel, and camels love to dance when the feeling is right, always in time. Gertie loves to dance. Gertie loves to dance.
Hello? Hey, human! I don't like this format!
You're great at protecting your own personal information. You probably even use things like two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN. But as much as you try to be in control of how your information is protected, there are lots of places that also have it, and they might not be as careful as you are. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second for identity threats. If your identity is stolen, a LifeLock US-based restoration specialist will help solve identity theft issues on your behalf, guaranteed or your money back. Plus, all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, meaning LifeLock will reimburse you up to the limits of your plan if you lose money due to identity theft. You might not be able to control how others handle your personal information, but you can help protect it with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Call 1-800-LifeLock and use promo code IHEART or go to lifelock.com/iHeart for 40% off. Terms apply.
There's a time and a place for filet of fish. But breakfast is for sausage biscuits.
Dip, sit in the hip like, whenever
McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.